Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hogs back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Garrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the Mile High city of Denver, Colorado.
And Palm Desert, California.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 60 for Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast covering the most renowned yields from the largest crop growing region in the state of California, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as always, we thank y'all for tuning in with us.
And if you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap some of the matchups from the past weekend for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use of advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you may want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're newer to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go back and check that out, so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes scouring the internet looking for reasons why people didn't like Marvel's Eternals when you actually really enjoyed the film. You'll never get that time back, so next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
I refuse to comment further on that until I get my hopeful allotted time after I hopefully win the quiz, but we'll hopefully that's the key word in all that. Hopefully get there later on in the show. But first and foremost, let's talk about Sean in Palm Desert right now, and imagine that we kind of maybe tied that in a little bit because the Seattle Kraken's AHL franchise on November 5th, Friday, officially revealed their brand and their name and their nickname, the Coachella Valley Firebirds. The 32nd AHL franchise now has an official identity. You go from a seafaring mythical creature in the parent club's Seattle Kraken to an airborne one with their soon-to-be AHL squad. Sean, what are your thoughts to the newly branded Coachella Valley Firebirds?
Well, for starters, I think the logo is good. A little more generic than I would have hoped for, but Firebirds is a hard logo to come up with something fresh. You're somewhat limited. I thought they did a pretty good take on it. The colors are good. They pop, especially with kind of the way that they're layered on both the word script and the actual logo themselves. My only concern is that when they unveil the uniforms, I'm, at least in my head, imagining they're probably going to do black pants, black gloves, and a black helmet to go with like a red and orange jersey, red and orange socks, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess they could be orange, but that would certainly be a look. So they're going to look a lot like Stockton, in my opinion, which as a divisional opponent is maybe not great. Although they'll probably look better than Stockton because Stockton uses like Calgary's old template, and Calgary's old template is awful. Mm-hmm. So, and there's rumors that Stockton is thinking about switching to like the retro look that Calgary has now. So they will really be sharing a very similar looking uniform in all likelihood, which I'm not a big fan of that. But other than that, and the fact that now 4 Pacific Division teams are named after cars popular in the 80s, I thought it was pretty good. Like, I'm not overwhelmed, but a little pinch above whelmed.
So to kind of address the color scheme, I did a little research and it's not official as we were told in college. You never research from Wikipedia, but I'd say in regards to color scheme for an AHL club, I think we can trust this as a good source. They are actually going to integrate that dark blue that the Seattle Kraken have, maybe not into their jerseys, but at least into their total brand color scheme. There's that dark blue. That's the home jerseys for Seattle.
Mhm.
And then they're also, which I was kind of surprised by this, integrating the light blue as well. That makes up the Seattle Kraken logo. So there is hope that hopefully some of those little flourishes and highlights can at least integrate a little bit of that light blue in there. And maybe, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we get the dark blue as those home jerseys as opposed to a black, meh, standard, generic, neutral color. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there and we'll see. But before we move on to the next topic, I did want to say, in my opinion, going back to the article I wrote in early September rather, regarding, the four main contenders, Firebirds has seemed like the best bet. They narrowed it down to 4 patents filed by the Oakview Group, the owners of the Kraken and the owners of the now Firebirds, but Falcons, Eagles, Dragons, and Firebirds. And of course, we knew as good as hell that Colorado Eagles owner Martin Lind was not going to let them be Eagles, especially in the same division, although the Eagles are moving to the Central from what I hear next season.
Still, like, no.
Right.
We had two admirals once in this league. That was enough.
Right. Yeah. And that was only because of, mergers, but contesting the Patents Office rejection of Firebirds in May 2020, and then receiving a reverse decision with Flint's blessing, the Flint Firebirds of the OHL up in the Ontario Hockey League, it kind of put the writing on the wall, in my opinion, about what the nickname would be. I mean, even back then, I'm like, if they are pushing this hard for Firebirds, that's what it's going to be come hell or high water. So the real thing was the Coachella Valley naming pivot, because it was going to be AHL Palm Springs for the longest time. They were going to build that arena in downtown Palm Springs, and COVID, the pandemic happened. Construction issues came into play. They were dealing with, a local Indian tribe to try and work with the land that they were, I don't know if they were gifted or they worked out an agreement with that Indian tribe, but, anyway, they pivoted, they salvaged it. They put it off a year. So 15 miles away from downtown Palm Springs in Palm Desert, technically, but it surrounds more of the cities in the Coachella Valley. And so it makes more sense that the name, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and it feels like it could be too long, but I don't think it is. I think it actually kind of flows off your tongue pretty well, and it's not as much of a mouthful as maybe you may read it when looking at it on paper.
I mean, I think like pivoting from Palm Springs wasn't entirely necessary. I mean, the Detroit Pistons played how many years in like the middle of Michigan, like 100 miles outside of Detroit? Hell, the Giants and Jets don't even play in the same state as their name. Like,
no,
I think it wasn't necessary, but I do think that, them doing something to try and have a more broader community appeal, to go for the entire area as opposed to just one narrow town, probably was a smart move from a business perspective and a marketing perspective. It's funny too, the number of times now that we've had to bring up the patent and trade office for AHL hockey stories is, I'm starting to think that I should camp out there like on weekdays, be like, hey, you got any AHL tips for me?
I mean, yeah, when I came to visit and you pointed out how close it was to your domicile, I'm like, wow.
Very close.
Very close, for sure. Well, that is the first order of business. Sean, let's talk the next order of business before we go into the weekend recap.
Yeah, Derek King got to get the bump up to the show as the interim coach of the Chicago Blackhawks after the Blackhawks fired Jeremy Colleton. We now have, I believe it's pronounced, Anders Sorensen and Peter Aubrey as the interim head and assistant coaches. If those are not how you pronounce those names, I apologize. I was not given an elite prospects pronunciation guide, nor could I just like YouTube old clips of them hearing broadcasters say it. So those are my best guesses. But those are your interim head and assistant coaches. CC, why don't you tell us a little bit about them so we have some background there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sorensen, he's entering his third full season as a coach on the Ice Hogs staff. He previously served as a development coach for the Blackhawks and the Rockford Ice Hogs from 2014 to 2018. And he was an assistant coach in the Swedish Hockey League from 2011 to 2013. Aubrey, he was previously the developmental goalie coach. He held that position for 7 seasons. He does have some prior experience as an assistant coach at Lake Superior State University in 14-15 and Mercyhurst University from 2011 to 2014. Sean, I know you're not going to dive too much on the NHL side of things, and that is completely understandable, but encapsulate this move for us a little bit more.
Yeah, as you alluded to there, I'm just going to keep this focused in the Ice Hogs portion of it, as I just do not have the energy in me to talk about the Blackhawks. I just don't. If you don't intuitively know why, please Google Rick Westhead Chicago Blackhawks and brace yourself. Godspeed to Derek King, though, as I don't think that's likely to go well at all, regardless of how good a coach he is. And truth be told, I don't really think that highly of him as a head coach. So, yeah, I understand your willingness to, want to take your shot at the NHL, but I really don't think that this was necessarily the time or the place or the team that you wanted to jump aboard, because they look real bad. And I don't really think that that's too surprising, as most people seemed to put them as like a maybe playoff bubble team at best. Godspeed to the Ice Hogs as well, who were already likely between a rock and a hard place, as the team was not, overflowing with talent to begin with, and is now forced to scramble with unexpected coaching changes to guys who, I mean, no offense to Sorensen and Aubrey, probably would not get hired outright for an NHL head coaching job in an open hiring market here, which isn't to say that they're bad coaches, but being a head coach at the professional level, first and foremost, requires a full staff to make sure everything runs smoothly. There was a head coach and 2 assistants, video coaches, developmental coaches, all of that stuff behind them. Now there's 2 less people to handle the exact same workload on a team that was struggling. Best of luck to them for that, because that is not the recipe for success, nor does it seem very likely that they're going to get, key guys that got called up back anytime soon, nor do I really have a whole ton of faith that they're going to turn around a roster that is just plainly out-talented most nights. I don't see this going well for them either, especially too if they aren't able to fill some of the vacancies on that coaching staff that are now accrued, as Derek King took one of his assistants from Rockford to go with him, because they fired not just Jeremy Colton, but the whole staff. So he is now also light in staff coaching the Blackhawks, as they are light in staff coaching the Ice Hogs. So yeah, it's probably going to be a throwaway season in Rockford. Sorry, Rockford fans. I know that you're probably used to that after 3 straight years of Derek King, kind of throwaway seasons. So, but at least I could say, eventually at some point, Chicago is going to have to fill that prospect pipeline and not trade them away. And that time might be coming rather soon. So hopefully there should be some good seasons coming in the future, 20, 22, 23 and beyond. But I would not be jumping up and down if I were an Ice Hogs fan, which I imagine they're probably used to at this point. But anyway, that is all of the news to cover for both Rockford and the Coachella Valley Firebirds at this time. Let's start doing what we intended to do the whole way and recap the weekend that was. CC, kick us off.
Well, first and foremost, before we get to the teams, we're going to recap the weekly pick'ems that we started last week. And for the second week, for our second week, I worded that a little odd. For our second week of picks, let's start with Sean. Sean went 16 of 34 picks for a 47.1% success rate. I 17 of 34. So I barely beat you this week at an even 50%. I did have to make a correction. I thought I beat you by 2 picks, but there was that qualifier in the Grand Rapids Rockford game. I said if Soderblom was in net, that the Ice Hogs were going to win. And guess what? He was in net, but the Griffins won. So I had to go back and edit that and correct that. So I win the week. So we're both 1-1 against each other. But after 2 weeks of picks, overall, you are still ahead, 32 of 65 to 31 of 65. So starting out close out of the gate, and just like whose line is it anyway, where the selections are made up and the points don't really matter. So because it's the AHL and there's so many shifting factors in regards to player call-ups, injuries, etc. But hey, we're doing our best, and hovering around 50% for AHL pick'ems, I don't think that's too shabby.
No, I mean, given all of the oh, hey, this goalie that we totally thought was going to be there just gets the call up, or hey, this guy's now injured out of nowhere. Them's the breaks.
Them's the breaks. All right, now let's get started with our teams. Again, like we covered in the weekend preview, we're going to be talking about the Atlantic Division and the Providence Bruins first and foremost. Okay, their 2 games set this weekend. Friday at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Saturday at Hershey. Sean, start us off. How did the P Bruins finish up between the 2 Pennsylvania squads?
Well, they got 2 dubs, and let's break down the goals that were scored here real fast, box score style. Friday, to kick us off, Oscar Stian forechecks well, forces a turnover from Wilkes-Barre Scranton's Cam Lee in the Bruins' offensive zone. The Bruins eventually work the puck from behind the net to the point, where Stian finds Stephen Fogarty in the slot for a high-danger shot. Lindbergh makes the save, but kicks the rebound right into the slots. A net battle ensues, and Stian finds the puck in the crease and bangs it home. 1-0 Providence in the opening 2 minutes of the game. On a 4-minute power play for Providence, Jack Ashan, gloving down a clearing attempt in the neutral zone, catches the Penguins' penalty killers in a sloppy line change. Ashan flings a pass to Jakub Lauko, who makes an easy zone entry, walks the defense back to their hash marks. The Penguins defenders watch the puck instead of picking up Stephen Fogarty, who just slips to the net front. Lauko finds him, and Fogarty makes the easy tap in. 2-0 Bruins, 11:42 left to go in the first. The P Bruins power play continues to set up chances and collapse the Penguins' penalty kill structure, as a simple back and forth pass between Sammy Asselin and John Moore gets 2 penalty killers for the Penguins out of position. Moore fires one into a layered screen, and Zach Senyshyn gets the tip. 3-0 Providence just 2 minutes into the second. Practically a carbon copy of that goal comes 3 minutes later, as Asselin and Moore play catch on the power play, and Michael Chaput to leave the shooting lane. Both Bartkowski and Cam Lee fail to defend Chris Wagner in the slot, and he tips John Moore's shot through another layered screen for another Providence power play goal. 4-0 P Bruins, 14:55 left in the second. The Penguins finally get on the board after Philip Hallander forces a turnover on an attempted Bruins breakout. Jordy Bellerive picks up the puck behind the net, tries to jam it short side. It bounces high in the air, and Providence goalie John Gillies loses track of it. It lands in the perfect spot for Nathan Legare, who chips it home 4-1 with 4:47 left in the second. After getting pinned in their own zone for what seemed like forever, the Penguins recover the puck and dump it out to the Providence defensive zone. John Gruden wins a battle in the corner against John Moore, recovers a John Gillies clearing attempt, and hits Kyle Olson streaking through the slot for a one-timer that he just buries over Gillies' glove. 4-2 with 17:23 left in the second. Off a 1-on-3 zone entry for Joona Koppanen, he manages to push the Penguins defense deep into the zone again with possession, pulls up on the goal line, catches Matt Bartkowski puck watching again, and hits the trailer Edwards Traumarks, who rifles a catch and release wrister top shelf glove side. 5-2 Providence with 10:06 left in the third. And then JD Forrest leaves Domingue in the net to start a power play with 5:05 left in the game, down by 3. But then pulls Domingue 20 seconds later, and then he calls his timeout shortly thereafter. I don't have an explanation as to why he thought any of the parts of that previous sentence made sense, but here we are. The Penguins 6-on-4 and 6-on-5 attacks are largely not threatening, and with 1:28 left in the game, Oscar Stian hits the empty net. 6-2 your final for Providence. On Saturday, many fewer goals to discuss. After a long possession in the Providence zone, the Bruins finally get some offensive pressure on Hershey. Alexei Protas, trying to break up the cycle, accidentally swats the puck into the slot, where Oscar Stian makes a high-end play, faking a one-timer, finds Stephen Fogarty across Royal Road. Fogarty redirects it past a sprawling Copley and in. Hershey scorekeepers generously gift a second assist to Jesper Frodin, despite him not touching the puck in the sequence. Michael Kempney makes an ill-advised cross-ice pass through the neutral zone that's intercepted again by Oscar Stian. He gets it swept off his stick by Johansson, but recovers the puck behind in the net, reverses the play behind the net to Jesper Frodin, who curls around the net, catches 4 Bears puck watching and not looking behind them, hits a streaking Stephen Fogarty into the slot for a beautiful catch and release wrister, bar down, hands up. Providence 2-0 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. Wagner hits the empty net to seal it for Providence 3-0.
All right. Well, like you said, Providence taking those 2 games. Let's talk about our picks. First and foremost, I picked Providence on Friday against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Hershey on Saturday, and Sean, you followed suit with Providence on Friday, but you said Hershey on Saturday in a competitive, maybe overtime win. And alas, that did not come to pass because Providence 3-0 shutout. And wait a second. I see that look on your face.
I at least want to say I was not like I got the pick wrong about Hershey on Saturday, but I was not wrong about that game.
No. And yeah, so you picked Providence and Hershey. You got it. I picked Providence and Hershey too. So we both were correct. So those are both, 2 tallies in the win column for us. The model picking Providence 51.8% on Friday, and Hershey 52.7% on Saturday. And we're all in the same house. Our house in the middle of our street.
Quick correction. Hershey did not win Saturday. Providence did 3-0. So we did not get all 3 of us went down swinging on that one. But
yes. I don't know. I don't know where my head was at. I was just hoping that we got all those points. Thank you for correcting me on that one.
No worries. Let's get to some takeaways though, because I do want to talk about that Hershey game. But first, we got to talk about Friday. Friday was a game that was decided a lot by forechecking. Providence got pressure with their first forechecker, created big turnovers. They turned that forechecking pressure and turnover generation into regular offensive zone time. They hemmed Wilkes-Barre Scranton in their own end quite a few times and just flat out beat them to rebounds and won battles along the boards to extend those offensive zone cycles. Wilkes-Barre, on the other hand, went with a very aggressive forecheck to start the game Friday, was regularly sending all 3 forwards below the dots, looking to create fast pressure and get turnovers of their own. They had some limited success and got a scoring chance or 2, but largely didn't get the pressure they were hoping for, as Providence's D was sure-handed, had poise, and was able to make plays under Wilkes-Barre Scranton's forechecking pressure. And that meant when the Penguins' forecheck failed, all those forwards are caught deep, and Providence can just walk through the neutral zone untouched. And that was a big story of the night of how Providence took this game. Wilkes-Barre Scranton swung and missed on the forecheck, and the Bruins could just walk into the offensive zone with possession and get the game going for them. And that's pretty much what they did. Saturday basically saw that script flipped in a sense. Not so much that Providence tried a crazy forecheck, but that they were largely ineffective in keeping tabs on Hershey, whereas Hershey did a really good job of keeping them in check. Providence penalty kill also looked really bad Saturday. They gave Hershey a lot of time and space, were very passive. I thought that was a mistake, especially given that Hershey has talent that they can put on that power play, even when some of it is up in Washington. Hershey also defended their blue line on Saturday very, very well. We talked about in the preview, like the Providence should just let their skaters fly through the neutral zone on Hershey. They'll have a team speed advantage, but Hershey being able to forecheck them well and being able to break up plays at the blue line and being able to kind of force Providence to play dump and chase in those circumstances. They did a really good job of that. But they couldn't bury the chances that they had. A couple of mistakes, small mistakes, and Providence made sure to take advantage of them. Overall, I thought Providence was easily the best team on Friday. I've said all along I don't believe in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. I thought they were fake. And Hershey, though, I thought was the better team on Saturday. I thought they played a more complete game. John Gilly stood on his head and just basically outdueled Phoenix Copley. Copley played well, which isn't the norm for him, as I have also been beating the drum that Phoenix Copley is at best an average goaltender now. But Providence put their limiting scoring chance in the net, and Hershey didn't. And that was the story of Saturday's game. Good teams, when they get outplayed, can find ways to win games. And even though Providence has struggled a little bit in this season so far, I still think they are a good team.
And, Sean, apparently my brain thought that Hershey was so competitive that they actually won that game, even though I said that Providence shut out Hershey. But when it came to the picks, I'm like, oh, yeah, we both swept it. The model was right. But yeah, anyway, it was Providence shutting out Hershey, even in spite of them being the better team, as you say. So let's dive in a little deeper. Let's talk detailed analysis, a little bit more fine-tooth comb on this. Let's talk players. Let's talk a little bit more minutia that you thought, or that you saw rather, from this weekend.
On Friday, I shouldn't say I was surprised that Stephen Fogarty had the weekend that he did. He played very well, but there were definitely a lot of moments on Friday where he needed to stop trying to deke through everyone. Quite a few times he was making extra moves through the neutral zone or in the offensive zone, trying to put on, a Sports Center top 10 kind of highlight. And it wasn't working for him. He was getting stripped of the puck in these moments against Wilkes-Barre Scranton defenders. And that was something that I don't know if someone said something to him in the locker room of hey, stop doing this, because he did it a bunch on Friday, but it was not in his game Saturday. And he managed to focus, found, space better, was better away from the puck, and turned that into points then as well. But overall, he played very well, found space, put the shots that he could find in the net. And that's, a good bit of puck luck for him. But yeah, a lot of extra moves Friday that were gone Saturday. I thought Oscar Stian was sharp all weekend, even if his box scores are a little inflated. One of those was an empty net goal and a bizarre choice to pull the goalie at that moment. Regardless, very much a weekend that was the opposite of a ghost and was active in creating offense all weekend, was visible in all three zones on Saturday. We gave him some grief in the preview, and for at least one weekend, he shut up by showing up for more than just one quick stretch. So at least for one weekend, well played. You have managed to silence us as critics. Zach Senyshyn, I thought, was really great in Hershey. Not so much Friday night, but one of the few P Bruins who was able to make things happen in the offensive zone in Hershey. Even though he didn't really get on the score sheet, he still was a factor in that game. I have no earthly idea why John Gillies was in the ECHL for any reason. He's been a useful starting goalie across 5 of the last 6 seasons. Giving Callum Booth a look, that was why you sent John Gillies. I guess Callum Booth's only gotten 16 starts across pro hockey since 2019, which is not a lot, obviously, but send him to the ECHL and let him play for a look there. Kaiser Soze is your prospect. Grosnick and Gillies are your veterans. Don't get cute here. This was very much a wake up and don't get cute. And that's exactly what they did. They, assigned Callum Booth to, I believe it was ECHL Maine, which is probably where he should have been starting the season. I'm really surprised that John Gillies was that he played the kind of good soldier here. And after being, a routinely good, good enough AHL goaltender for 5 of the last 6 seasons, was I'll happily accept this ECHL assignment to a league I don't belong in. But he did. And that's a team player for sure.
It kind of reminds me of Hunter Miska when he first signed with the Eagles, his first season. He was sent down to ECHL Utah with the Grizzlies. Then he came back up with the Eagles, and then the Avalanche called him up for a few games. So he played with the Avalanche, the Eagles, and the Grizzlies all at once. And I'm not saying Gillies is going to get that opportunity with the Boston Bruins per se, but I will say that after the offseason that we had and the pandemic that we've endured, and last season, just the wild and crazy ride, maybe Providence forgot, just what the hell to do with goaltenders for at least a few games, and kind of had to feel that out for, the opening portion of the season. John Gillies is new to the organization as well. So you'd hope that they did their research and know what they were getting. But, again, it's just everything was all cattywampus last year. But let's move on. Final topic regarding Providence. Let's see what is coming down the pike for the P Bruins in the weeks to come and just in general.
So Providence definitely pulled out 2 points from a spot they didn't deserve here, but that's a sign of a strong team to me, as we said earlier. They head to a 5-game homestand. That's not quite the 17 the Moose had last year, but 5 is a solid homestand that should help them build some momentum to keep things going in the right direction after probably not the start that they were looking for. 3 of those 5 are against Hartford and Springfield, though, who have at least looked pretty decent. While Springfield looked very good, Hartford better than I would have expected. So this will not just be a cakewalk run where they get to play Wilkes-Barre Scranton 5 times, but this should be an upswing kind of moment here for them to kind of seize momentum and get out of the like bottom middle parts of the Atlantic Division. Should they be able to pull, I don't know, 7 out of those 10 points?
Yeah, they definitely run the risk of getting Perunovic though.
Oh, everyone runs that risk.
Of course.
Man's a weapon.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
All right. Well, that is all we have for Providence for this time. We're going to take a break here. And after the break, we will get to Belleville and Cleveland. If you're just here for Providence, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as all of our popular places to find the podcast, including YouTube, can be found in our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. That's Linktree, linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back.
All right, we go a little further west, of course, in our weekend recap in the second series that we covered in our weekend preview, which was the Belleville Senators heading to Cleveland, Ohio to play the Cleveland Monsters in a 2-game set on Friday and Saturday. Friday at Cleveland, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Saturday at Cleveland, 7 p.m. Eastern. And of course, we're going to break it down real quick, box score style in the audio and verbal description of Mr. Sean O'Brien. So take it away. What did Friday bring both Cleveland and Belleville in Ohio?
Friday, Belleville opens the scoring with a shorthanded goal less than 5 minutes into the first period as Jake Lucchini shows solid anticipation and deflects a pass high in the offensive zone between Tim Burney and Brennan Gauntz, outraces Burney for the breakaway, pulls the classic fake shot, backhand deke, but tucks it 5-hole instead of going far side on Tarasov, 1-0 B-Sens. I will say, for all we made about Cleveland being conservative on the forecheck and having bodies back in the preview, they sure got caught with guys deep in the zone as Jake Lucchini goes glassing out to find Robbie Yarvinti and Eric Brandstrom on a 2-on-1 with Dylan Simpson. Simpson can't stop the pass across for Brandstrom, and he buries it. 2-0 Belleville. Billy Sweezy leaves the front of the net to take a shot at pressuring Matthew Wedman off the puck, leaving Cole Sherwood to be picked up by Tyler Secura. Secura is busy puck watching, though, and Wedman has his head up, finds Sherwood, who blasts one past Tarasov to make it 3-0 Belleville with 4:08 left to go in the first period. Belleville continues to pour it on the power play as Pontus Aube threatens off the left half wall and gets the Monsters PK to make mistakes in their coverage, leaving Cole Reinhardt unguarded at the top of the crease. Aube shoots from the top of the circle, and Reinhardt fights off 0 defenders and easily gets the tip. 4-0 B-Sens with 11:17 left in the third period. Scott Saburn sinks the empty netter from his own blue line to make it 5-0 B-Sens with 6:57 left in the game. The Monsters at least break up the shutout as Parker Kelly can't handle a routine pass in his own zone. Adam Haluka recovers it, and the Monsters take possession. Puck is deflected below the goal line where Jake Lucchini leaves his post guarding Carson Meyer to apply some pressure behind the net. That backfires as Jake Christensen finds Meyer, who bangs it home with 5:18 left in the third to make it 5-1. Parker Kelly makes amends for that bad turnover that led to the goal by creating a turnover off an ill-advised pass from Adam Haluka. At the Monsters' blue line, Kelly picks off the pass, walks right into the slot, rifles a wrister low glove side past Tarasov. 6-1 Monsters with 2:02 left to go, scoring the rare goal with a goalie in after an empty net goal has been scored. The Monsters do get one back after Mark Kaslik takes an incredibly stupid penalty. Carson Meyer takes a chip into the zone from Thomas Shemitz, sees that Cole Sherwood was puck watching and isn't covering the passing lane to Brennan Gauntz. He hits Gauntz in stride across Royal Road. Gauntz buries it 6-2, but that is your final. The Senators just boat racing the Monsters in the first period and cruise to a win. Saturday, a little more tame affair. A bad turnover in his zone by Pontus Aube is recovered by the Monsters in the neutral zone. They regroup quickly and re-enter the offensive zone uncontested. Justin Scott makes some use of deception as he fakes a shooting motion, then makes a short pass off the entry at the top of the circle to Cole Castles, who one-times it past the Mandalesian's glove. 1-0 Monsters, 11:42 left in the first. Off a dump-in, Jake Lucchini gets good forechecking pressure on Cole Clayton behind the net. Josh Dunn comes into support, but is also stripped by Jake Lucchini. Robbie Yarvinti Yarventier swoops in and chips it past Berube, who didn't know where the puck was. Tie game, 6:56 left in the second period. On a 5-on-3 power play for Belleville, the Monsters hold up a zone entry for a second, but Lassie Thompson picks up the puck, makes a spin move to find open ice, finds Roby Yarventier across Royal Road. Yarventier goes back across Royal Road to Mark Kastelik for the tap in at the top of the crease. 2-1 B-Sends with 15:12 left in regulation. Mike Eves hits on his second goalie pool 80 challenge of the season and pulls with 3:17 left, down by 1. The Monsters, with a 6-on-3 advantage, get a clearing chance by Belleville, stopped at the blue line by Tim Burney. He tips it to Tyler Angle, who puts it across the slot to Gauntz, who plays catch with Danforth at the bottom of the circle, and Gauntz gets all of the return pass on a one-time missile over the blocker of the Mandalesian. Tie game at 2 with 2:01 left in regulation. No overtime in the 3-on-3, so we go to the skills competition where only Jake Lucchini scores, takes it wide, cuts across the face-off dots, fakes a shot and pulls it to his backhand and tucks it home. He's the only one that finds pay dirts and the skills comp, so Belleville takes it 3-2 in the shootout.
All right. Well, another weekend sweep as Belleville takes those 2 games against the Cleveland Monsters. Let's talk picks recap. I chose Cleveland taking the first game and Belleville emerging victorious in the second game. Sean, you said you don't think Belleville is as bad as the results have been, but you also said Cleveland is damn good, and you chose a monster sweep. Yikes. Yes, quite the opposite. At least I got one pick right out of 2, and Sean went for all of it. Just pushed the pile to the center right there and lost his shorts, unfortunately. But in his defense, the model did choose Cleveland 53.3% in both games. And Belleville decided to at least prove us both wrong for the first game and you wrong for the second game. I won't belabor that. Let's get to the overarching macro look at the weekend for both Cleveland and Belleville.
So before we start, I just want to put this out there. Belleville jerseys need to change. White chest stripes with white numbers on the back. Come on, son. Do you hate people trying to identify your players on the ice? Like, it's so hard to see jersey numbers at all, like in these games. Those need to go.
Oof.
All right, now to actual analysis here. After that, whining. In both games, Belleville looked like the fresher, more cleanly executing team. And we saw this a little bit at the end of 2021, that Belleville wasn't the most talented team, but Troy Mann got a ton out of them. They were a lunch pail, hardworking team that just would not give up, would not quit. And that mentality was very much on display this weekend as they just outworked the Monsters for long stretches on Friday. And even with a depleted roster on Saturday, they still just kept battling when the Monsters looked disinterested for stretches. What we saw in Hershey on Saturday is also what we saw in Belleville on Friday. The Monsters, like the P Bruins, were the faster team, but Belleville, like Hershey, defended its blue line well and had defenders keep tight gaps, force plays to the wall. They were able to keep the Monsters' speed in check, and that negated a lot of the advantage we knew the Monsters had. Now, that being said, there were still times when coverage broke down or the Monsters got a good bounce and were able to take off on a rush chance. And they did a few times, but they also screwed themselves a few times, got caught on some offsides, couldn't get a pass complete on their rush chances, but they were, for the most part, unable to assert that pace of play on the Senators on Friday and for the most part on Saturday too. Belleville gave Cleveland chances to come back in the game and win on Friday too. 7 power play opportunities, and they converted 1 at the end of the game in garbage time. And that was in large part because the Monsters' power play was just unthreatening when they got into the zone. Their power play goal was a rush chance, again, in garbage time, but for the most part, they were shooting and working the puck almost exclusively from the perimeter. They weren't doing so with any kind of decisiveness. They didn't collapse the PK at all. They weren't even looking across Royal Road. Those are not, aspects of a successful power play in the year of our Lord 2021. I also will say, too, I am going to put some of Friday's loss on Mike Eves. He needed to call timeout and regroup his team after that second Belleville goal. He should have pulled Berube after the third. His team was getting outworked at that point, and he needed to do something before the intermission to right that ship. And he just flat out didn't. That's not a good. I'm sorry. He needed to not pull Berube. He needed to pull Tarasov on Friday. But still, I will stand by that. He needed to call a timeout after that second goal because Belleville was clearly outworking his team and out hustling them, and he needed to have some words for them because, like, once Belleville scored that, if Belleville scores that third goal or scores a third or a fourth goal to end the first, like, that game's basically over. You're not coming back down 3-0. With 2 periods left to go, especially with the way that the play flowed to that point. You needed to make moves earlier in that. Saturday was a game that featured a lot of both teams failing to forecheck effectively and gliding through the neutral zone untouched, but by and large not doing much when they got to the offensive zone. A lot of zone entries or dump recoveries followed by a single shot attempt, and then the defense recovering the puck, going the other way with basically no forechecking pressure. So, like, it was fast-paced, but it wasn't very exciting, which is not usually what you think from a fast-paced kind of game. But there weren't a lot of dangerous offensive chances for around half of Saturday's game. The second period on Saturday started to see Belleville tip the scales a bit, get more zone time. Again, just going to work, getting rebounds, winning battles, doing small things, and out-hustling the monsters. Third period of Saturday was just a parade of both teams trying to give the game away. I mean, an absolute just shoot yourself in the foot contest. Both sides got extended 5-on-3s. Both cut their own power play short by stupid penalties. A lot of blown coverages in the D zones by both teams in the third period. It was a third period that was like I said, a shoot yourself in the foot contest for both teams. I mean, thankfully, Cleveland at least managed to make it to overtime and get a point out of it, but it was not pretty. Big summary of the weekend, though, was Cleveland didn't execute well. It didn't create second chance opportunities by winning battles for rebounds in the offensive zone. It rarely created chances with its team speed. Belleville, by and large, outworked and outgrinded a better team on paper, and that's how they got dubs.
And, going into Saturday's game and, kind of the COVID-19, I don't want to say breakout, but, 2 or 3 people, affected by it on the Ottawa Senators. And, just the possibility of 4 or 5 skaters from the B-Sens having to be called up by Ottawa potentially, and just all that uncertainty. And yet Belleville still gets the shootout victory over Cleveland. Like, just all of that uncertainty and everything like that. And, you had Scott Sabarin and Igor Sokolov called up to Ottawa eventually, and you still managed to get that victory.
Also, Eric Brandstrom didn't play Saturday. I wasn't entirely sure why. I don't believe he got called up, but I could be wrong about that. I am wrong about that. He did, in fact, get called up. My mistake.
No worries. Yeah. So
the two of them out Saturday. Brandstrom was very good Friday, and we'll get to him and Sokolov and the rest of the players individually here in a second. But yeah, that was another big aspect of it too. Is they lost guys that helped them Friday win that game, and Saturday still it was uglier Saturday for both teams, but they still managed to just take that Troy Mann lunch pail mentality and go to work. And that was, I expected them to have that kind of never say die, next man up mentality, but to have kind of Cleveland almost play down to them was surprising for me. Like I said, I don't think Belleville was as bad as their record going into the weekend, but Cleveland was just better, faster, executing well. And they just, it's like, I don't want to, start any crazy rumors here, but it almost looked like Cleveland spent Thursday, partying real hard and then came to work a little hungover on Friday. And that was kind of why they were just mostly going through the motions. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that that's kind of what it looked like. A team going through the motions when they're just not themselves after a late night.
Just a theory, folks. Just a theory. Well, you covered the big picture there. And now, focusing on skaters, focusing on netminders, Belleville so guarding the wall in net on Friday, and of course with the Mandalesian on Saturday. This is the way. Let's talk about the individual players now.
We talked about Brandstrom and Sherwood in the preview. Both of them had good weekends. Brandstrom and Sokolov obviously didn't play Saturday. They got called up because Ottawa needed healthy non-COVID people. But part of me wonders how much of the game being in Ohio and Sherwood likely having family in attendance kind of helped spark his game a little bit this weekend. I mean, not to mention, who doesn't love the joy of sticking it to your former employer who let you walk away? Sherwood, though, minus one puck watching moment and a defensive miscue here or there, was much, much better, though. And part of me thinks some of that was an extra focus for being in his home state, probably seeing family and friends, being in a familiar area. I think that definitely was something he can build off going forward, as you could see confidence in his game building as he got more involved. He got puck touches early in the game, which we haven't talked about that in a while, the importance of, getting the puck on your stick and getting engaged in the game early to kind of build that confidence. But he definitely did that on Friday and Saturday, got involved early, got the puck on his stick, made some, good small plays, but that builds confidence through the game. And you could see that working and clicking for him. Brandstrom looked superb on Friday, made plays in all three zones, created offense from nothing a few times. On the Cleveland side, fun fact, Cole Clayton's nickname is Cowboy, as he grew up on a cattle ranch. So we will be referring to him as Cowboy Clayton from now until the end of time.
Yeehaw.
That's really all I got from his game this weekend. He was okay, but I thought that was worth mentioning. Adam Haluka with a very up and down weekend. Was out there creating some offense, trying to get things going. One of the few Cleveland monsters who seemed like they had their act together, but also took just purposeless penalties in a close game on Saturday that could have cost his team. Thankfully, in the parade of, no, you win, the B-Sens didn't take advantage of that. He had moments in the defensive zone like that turnover to Parker Kelly that directly led to a goal. But both of those are just not great moments from a leader on the team in preventable mistakes and unforced errors. Like, it was good to see him out there creating offense and doing that part of it, but some of the other aspects, like I said, very up and down weekend from Adam Haluka. I am also starting to think that Tarasov is going to be a bit more of a project goaltender than initially thought. He looked okay. He has a lot of good raw tools. He's still very athletic. He's incredibly aggressive at times, but I still think there is a fair amount of refining from my viewings of him that's going to be necessary to get him to the next level. I know I heard some banter from, Cleveland Monsters fans who thought, okay, well, we re-signed one of our two goalie tandem in Columbus for next season. That was going to be the guy. The other one was getting traded, and then Tarasov would take that backup spot next year. And if that's the plan, that's maybe a year, 2 years too fast. Granted, my viewings on Tarasov are limited. He's still young, and there are a lot of other factors that we could talk about. And, coming to America, not, probably speaking that great of English, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm starting to see more polishing than I think anyone was really expecting or anticipating. Not to say he won't get there and be the goalie that we thought he could have been, but I think, there is going to be more time necessary for him in Cleveland before he ascends.
Last season being the aberration that it was in the very small sample size we got of Tarasov last year, now we're starting to get a little bit more of a handle and a little bit more of a accurate view as to what he can bring to the table.
Yeah. And like I said, there are plenty of reasons why I'm sure, it's been extra challenging for him, coming to a country that you're not as familiar with, probably not, that strong a grasp on the language, and being young and still like trying to focus on being a professional while probably struggling to communicate with a bunch of your teammates. That sucks. That all sucks a lot. So there's probably some of that, that's handicapping him a little bit. But like I said, I think that there's still a little bit more to work out of his game than initially I thought, but we'll see.
Let's finish up here and talk about what the Monsters and the B-Sens have to look forward to on this long and arduous path known as the 2021-22 AHL regular season.
So Cleveland heads to Rochester this weekend for what I'm sure will be a wild one, as both teams have talent and are typically fun to watch. But Cleveland needs to learn the lessons from this weekend about being consistent, or they're going to get burned on a second straight weekend by a team they should beat. Belleville heads to Laval on Wednesday, then hits Bridgeport and Utica on the weekend. Utica has started strong, but Laval and Bridgeport have struggled recently. And this is a good chance for Belleville to build some momentum, take some advantage of teams who are not finding their groove just yet, and grind out 4 points there before they head to Utica. And I'll be honest, Utica has looked very good in my limited glimpses of them, although they did just lose Alexander Holtz. And from the sound of things of what's going on in New Jersey, there are going to be some more call-ups. So we'll see who's left in Utica for by the time Belleville gets there, but very good opportunity for Belleville to kind of bank some points in what is going to be, a difficult division for them to climb the ladder in.
Yep. Cleveland, 4th place out of 7 in the North, 4-2-1-3 so far in the North Division for a .600 points percentage. Belleville last, 7th out of 7, 4-6-0-0 for 8 points. That's a .400 points percentage. But if Sean has anything to say about it, this would be a good weekend for Belleville to catch up in the point standings in the very competitive North. All right. Well, with that all said, we're going to take a quick break. And after this brief respite, we are going to get to the weekend of the Grand Rapids Griffins. If you're just here for Belleville and Cleveland, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you can get episodes in a timely fashion. You can also check us out on social media. Sean put out a meme of the Ontario Reign, which was pretty good. The Black and Silver Bandits. Go check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts can be found at our Linktree page. You can see it scrolling below if you're watching on YouTube. If not, it is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We have got some advertisements to run, but after that, meet us on the other side. We're going to talk about the Grand Rapids Griffins. See you there.
All right, we are back talking the Grand Rapids Griffins weekend series. They were at Iowa on Friday, and then they went to Rockford for Rockford's home opener this late in the season on Saturday as the BMO was under construction. Cece, talk to me about how these two matchups played out on the ice. Give me a box score rundown, please.
Absolutely. So Friday in Des Moines, halfway through the first period, Grand Rapids gets on the board. 3-on-2, they came into the zone. Taro Hirose cuts back quick at the blue line while 4th Griffin skater caught up. Hirose passes to said skater, who was Hayden Verbeek on the left wing, who blows by Caitlin Addison and passes it to Ryan Murphy in front, who tips it in to make it 1-0 Griffins. Just under 5 minutes later, a Royal Road pass on the Iowa power play to an open John Lizotte made it 1-1. Marco Rossi setting up Mason Shaw for a kneeling one-timer, nets another power play goal early on in the second period, counted for 2-1 Wild. Late in the second, Riley Barber swoops in above the face-off circles and risks a shot high. Andrew Hammond tries to glove it, but it goes by him and takes a weird bounce off the boards, maybe it hit a stanchion or something. Hammond gets turned around as Chase Pearson corrals it in the corner, whipping it to Hirose on the left side for a tap-in score to make it 2-2. We're back to a tie game. Then things really opened up in period number 3. After Iowa's Cody McLeod received a 5-minute major for boarding, big surprise there, Shaw took it coast-to-coast short-handed, scoring 11 seconds into the Grand Rapids Griffins power play, count the shorty to make it 3-2 Iowa Wild. Griffins responded with a power play tally just a minute and 15 seconds later when Barber took it up the middle, passed it to Rossi along the left wing boards, then received it back at the net front to put it in and tie things back up at 3 apiece, sensing a little back and forth action here. Turner, Elson, and Pearson caused a turnover in Iowa's zone, leading Elson to drive in and score on Hammond at 9:50 of the third period. A 2-on-1 with a feed from Kirill Tutayev to Verbeek made it 3 in a row for Grand Rapids and a 5-3 lead at 12:08 of the final regulation frame. Iowa, however, did not give up. A blast from former Griffins player Joe Hicketts from the blue line missed the net, bouncing off the end boards at the perfect angle to the left wing, where Rossi charged ahead and shot the power play tally home to make it 5-4 at 15:12 of the third period. And just making things interesting. Iowa tying the game again just about 3 minutes later when Hicketts put a shot on net, deflected in by yet another former Grand Rapids forward, Dominic Turgeon. We head to overtime where Elson chips the puck ahead of the defender and comes in on a 2-on-1 with Jonathan Bergeron. Elson he passes cross ice to Bergeron to win the game and earn that coveted second point. Now, Saturday's game in Rockford, not nearly as score heavy. It seems like a theme here on the Calder Farmstead this weekend. Not nearly as eventful on the score sheet as Rockford's first power play of the night was drawing to a close. Dominic Shine lobbed it down the ice to Hayden Verbeek. Verbeek and Tyler Spezia then broke out down the left wing and the center, respectively. A Royal Road pass and one-timer later, and Grand Rapids is on the board at 9:07 of the first period. Literally 10 seconds later, you had the face-off at center ice. Griffins win it. Bergeron accepted the pass, entering the Ice Hogs zone. Then he passed it to a driving Hirose to make it 2 goals in a sixth of a minute. 10 seconds between each goal, and you already have a Grand Rapids lead of 2-0. The only other tally of the game, time was winding down the second period, and Rockford, different Ford. Rockford was on the power play. A failed clearing attempt is kept in Grand Rapids zone by the Ice Hogs. Alex Nylander shot the puck over to Evan Barrett in the left wing faceoff circle, who quickly gained possession and relayed a pass to Brett Connolly to tap it in and make it 2-1. Grand Rapids still having the lead. Again, as I foreshadowed, that was it for scoring, but a last-second Rockford push with an extra attacker was stifled by Hirose, kneeling down to block a shot attempt. He was scoring, he was facilitating, he was blocking pucks. Hirose just doing it all, especially in this game. The puck bounced out of the zone. Griffins, the Ice Hogs rather, couldn't clear the zone in time. And again, the matchup ended with a 2-1 final score at the BMO Center with yet another Griffins victory and our third weekend sweep of our preview. Sense a little bit of a thing going on here.
Yeah, as far as picks go, Cece, you said that Kalen Addison was going to be a big factor and thought that it would be Iowa on Friday. You said if Soderblom was in net for Rockford, you're going to say Ice Hogs on Saturday. Otherwise, you were going to go with Grand Rapids. I took Grand Rapids for the weekend sweep. The model, however, had Iowa by a hair on Friday, and Grand Rapids is a big favorite on Saturday because, Rockford. So an interesting splitting of picks kind of all over the place. You, especially with the Soderblom pick, which I actually thought was a pretty good insight there, but he did not get the job done, although it looks like he tried his damnedest in that game. Just couldn't get the run support in his favor.
Yeah, Soderblom, when your defense kind of is caught sleepwalking after a goal like that, and Grand Rapids just rammed it down their throat and scored that other goal. And like you said, no run support, as it were, with just one goal. It's I say 2 goals allowed is not. I say that's pretty good. And Soderblom, is living up to the very, very, very early hype thus far. But just didn't work out. And it taught me to maybe not make so specific a pick.
As we've noted before, hockey is a sport full of randomness where most teams are, within rounding error of a coin flip every night. So I wouldn't, shy away from it after one bad coin flip for you. But let's talk Grand Rapids big team takeaways. Tell me what you saw from them as a team from the weekend that was.
Well, first, let's start with their special teams, because their power play was 1 for 5 on Friday, 0 for 0 on Saturday. I was really surprised by that stat. Like, how? If you're seeing the video, you saw Sean's face. Just there were no penalties against Rockford on Saturday. There were 2 against the Grand Rapids Griffins. There were 2 penalties all game, and they were both against Grand Rapids.
And did that feel like a correct assessment of the game for you? Like, did you see, refs swallowing their whistles or just missing calls, or was it like a friendly affair?
It wasn't nearly as physical a game, I felt like, as Grand Rapids and Iowa. From what I saw, like there were probably a few other instances where penalties could have been called, but maybe the refs just didn't feel like calling them for whatever reason, and just wanted BMO home opening, and I don't know. There could have been a lot of factors, but I can definitely attest to the fact that Grand Rapids and Iowa was more physical than Rockford and Grand Rapids.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you there. That is a very, you don't see a lot of 0-for-0 power plays, especially too in the day and age of like, oh, got to get a makeup call in there. But I mean, maybe the ref did, a real strong shoulder workout doing this for a couple seconds, asking a lot of them. So, all right. Anyways, sorry. You were talking special teams for Grand Rapids.
I was. And yes, let me find out where I was again. Okay. Yeah. We talked power play. Let's talk penalty kill. Man, Grand Rapids penalty kill is hot garbage. Iowa went 3 for 4 on the power play on Friday, and Rockford posted a 50% conversion rate. Like I said, they only got 2 calls. Grand Rapids only got 2 calls against them, but Rockford went 1 for 2. Go figure. So their penalty kill is in the toilet, but yet Grand Rapids emerging victorious in those 1-goal contests. So, the Griffins can't continue winning games by the skin of their teeth like this. I mean, it's definitely not a sustainable clip. Not only is the penalty kill going to have to up their ante, but the defense in general. Let's focus back on the penalty kill real quick. League-wide rankings. The Griffins went from 15th with an 81.3% kill rate to 26th, 73.7% kill rate on the season. Not good, Bob. Goals against per game went from 19th to 17th, 3.14 goals against per game to 3.11. So that pretty much stayed the same, which isn't good either. Shots against per game went from 26th, 32 even, to 22nd, 31 even. Again, not much of a change. So when your defense shows absolutely no change and you started the season, 2-4-0-1, yeah, you eked out those wins. But again, that's not going to be something sustainable to continue getting victories in those close margin games, and especially when your penalty kill and your defense isn't doing well. Offensively, the Griffins had 28 and 27 shots on goal per game, respectively. That's a little bit better than their 24.86 shots per game average they were carrying into the weekend, but it still leaves Grand Rapids at a new 25.44 shots per game and still 29th out of 31 teams in the league. You got to put the puck on net more. Got it. One of the keys that I laid out for Grand Rapids this weekend was to be aggressive, but not too aggressive. And if anything, I think the Griffins dialed it back a little bit too much at times. Like I mentioned earlier, against Rockford, I don't think that they were nearly as physical as they were against Iowa. And when they did push the physicality, it ended up biting them in the butt a little bit. They had those 5 penalties called against them in that first game. But, on the other side of the coin, you provoked Cody McLeod to take a 5-minute major and game misconduct. So he got tossed from the game early in the third period. And, granted, they went back and forth quite a bit on goals in the third period. But when you lose an enforcer like Cody McLeod, it's not something that, it's a big deal on the score sheet by any means, because we're talking about Cody McLeod here. But,
I mean, that is incredibly accurate. We were still talking. It's like, oh, there isn't a guy who plays 7 minutes a game and 6 of them are in the penalty box. Like, yeah, I understand that, but at the same point, anytime you could have told me they baited Kalen Addison into a 5-minute boarding call. A 5-minute power play is a 5-minute power play.
Right.
$5 is $5.
But the fact that Iowa, 11 seconds into that power play, jets down the ice, punches him in the mouth and gets a shorthanded goal. It's like, well, for crying out loud, what are you doing, Grand Rapids?
I mean, that is a huge momentum swinging moment too, but credit to Grand Rapids for not just, they're like, all right, put it in the back of your mind. It's gone. It's over. You cannot change that goal by what happens now. You can only affect what happens in the outcome. And they very much, let that goal just kind of go in one ear and out the other and kept going about it. That's at least, I mean, a lot went wrong for them this weekend and they still managed to pull out victories, but that's at least a credit to them for being able to kind of just shrug that one off and go back to their day.
Yeah. And I mean, they tried their damnedest in that last 5 minutes. They were up 5-3 and they allowed Iowa to creep back in the game too. But anyway, they got the victory. That's all that counts in the end. But hey, lastly, I wanted to say that I shared a stat. The Griffins were undefeated leading after 1 or 2 periods of play, and that they were winless when they were behind after 1 or 2 periods of play. Iowa's victory, they were tied after both the first and second, so it was kind of a wash there. But Rockford, Grand Rapids was ahead after the first and second period. So that kind of undefeated winless factor of the stat, whether you're leading after 1 or 2 periods or not, that kind of remains after this weekend of play. So we'll see how long that trend continues for the Griffins.
All right, that's the big picture. Let's go to the small picture. Let's talk players. How did your individual analysis turn out? Who did you think stuck out for Grand Rapids this weekend? Who drove the bus for them?
Well, let's start with the goaltending. I wondered if the Griffins were going to ride Cal Pickard through the weekend after the rough start from rookie netminder Victor Bramstrom. And guess what they did? They rode Pickard through the weekend. They took my advice. They must have listened to the program because Bramstrom was not looking good. He was not looking good at all. And Pickard was looking pretty respectable. And like I said, it feels like he's been around forever, but he's only 29. So, taking picks in both Friday and Saturday's game. And even after 5 goals allowed against Iowa, Pickard still boasts a 4-2-0 record with a 1.99 goals against average and a .936 save percentage on the season. Not too bad, again, after letting in those 5 goals against Iowa. And 3 of those goals, those Iowa goals, were on the power play via Royal Road passes, and one of them was on a breakaway as well. One goal was off of a fluky bounce behind the boards to an open Iowa player on the other side of Picks, and that final goal was off a deflection at net front. So, take your pick, no pun intended, but take your that wasn't intentional, I promise. But a lot of those goals, if not all of them, in my opinion, could have been prevented with a better defense and a better penalty kill. Again, to shore that up in front of Pickard and to not leave him hanging out to dry with a Royal Road pass where it's on his, he can't make that lateral transition across the ice. I don't care how good of a goalie you are. You can't do it that quickly. It's just, it's ice. The friction coefficient is just not, it's not conducive for it.
Not to mention too, like that's why Royal Road passes are something we always stress, because when you get shots and get one-timers off those passes, they're very, very difficult to stop. Like that's why teams offensively try and do them, because it doesn't matter who you are as a goaltender. Those are hard to stop. And if you're giving up those passes as a penalty kill, you're doing something wrong. If those passing lanes are that open and they're not making some, beautiful sauce that goes over 2 guys' sticks to get there, then you are doing something wrong as a penalty kill. And that's like, none of those from the sound of things is on Calvin Pickard, which, don't get me wrong. I think he's a pretty decent goaltender, but I'm surprised that he still has those numbers. But yeah, and this doesn't even sound like a case of like, as we've kind of belabored with Caden Primo and other goalies around the league, of like, you didn't do any wrong, but you didn't do enough right. That doesn't even sound like that was the case here. It sounds like his defense mostly left him out to dry, and he had to try and pick up the pieces. And well, at least he managed to, keep it close enough for them to be able to give him the run support. But that is something that definitely Grand Rapids is going to need to work on going forward. You can't be giving up those passing lanes like that, especially against a team like Iowa, who is looking for them. That was a hallmark of the Iowa power play for years, even when, Mayhew and Sam Annis were there running the show. That was what they did, and that hasn't changed.
No, that system is still very much in place. And, I'll amend my comment from earlier saying that the one that bounced off the boards and went right to the Iowa skater, that was kind of fluky, and you can count that goal. It wasn't Pickard's fault, but it wasn't really anybody's fault, because, the puck will do crazy puck things sometimes. But, and a deflection in front, you can get, you could shore that up a little bit. You could shore up the PK a little bit. But to kind of wrap it up with goalies, I do want to say that I'm going to still come back to the fact that, with Bramstrom having the rough start that he is having, and looking at Caden Fulcher, so 3 wins, 1 loss in the ECHL, 1.51 goals against average, .939 save percentage. You know what? I say flip him. I say put Bramstrom with the Toledo Walleye, give Fulcher the call up, and don't leave Picker, don't put the Mikhail burden. Don't put that on him, Mikhail Burden, if you know what I'm saying. Don't put that on Calvin Pickard. When you have a possibility to have Fulcher be a decent, maybe even improvement on Bramstrom, I don't know. Give him a shot. That's all I'm saying. He's doing respectable in the ECHL. I don't know.
Still a guy in Reading just hanging out that you could, make a hockey trade for too, that you're familiar with as a goaltender. Just throwing it out there.
Patty Nags knows the system. Been there a while. Last but not least, let's talk about Bergeron on the score sheet. Now, another key for the Griffins that I detailed was getting this rookie forward in the points column. So he had one game-winning goal in that Iowa matchup in overtime, and he had an assist in the Rockford victory later. So my key turned out to be pretty spot on. You can make that stat 4 out of 5 times Bergeron has made the score sheet. Grand Rapids has emerged victorious. So it may seem like a coincidental sort of thing, but man, you get the rookie the puck and you get him either assisting on a goal or putting a goal in the back of the net as a game winner. No big deal. Hey, you get him the puck, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Hirose. I mean, he was scoring goals. Hirose doesn't score goals often. He's usually the playmaker. So the fact that he made the score sheet, or at least the goals column, not once but twice this weekend, and I mean, that's in 2 separate games. That is super impressive. Like I said, that final game against Rockford, he went down and blocked the final shot on goal. And I think, gosh, having him on your team is he's one of those guys. He's one of those guys that's visible on the ice and is just going to leave it all out there 110%.
There you go. All right.
There you go.
So let's open the crystal ball here. Look to the future. Who does Grand Rapids have to face in this coming weekend? What kind of developments do you see that could change the roster heading into those games? How do you feel about their ability to kind of sustain this momentum? Tell me everything.
Sure. I'll do my best. So the Griffins will host the Manitoba Moose in their 3rd and 4th meetings thus far this season. They're going to play on Friday and Saturday, November 12th and 3rd. There's no 12th and 3rd, 12th and 13th rather, at 7 p.m. Eastern on each night. The Griffins, good news, will get forward Luke Wachowski back from his 2-game suspension. They have now released Max Humitz from his PTO, sends him back to Kalamazoo to play with the Wings in the ECHL. He did pick up a secondary assist on that Verbeek goal against Iowa, so not too bad to make the score sheet and be a part of a winning team for a couple games when you're up with a cup of coffee in the AHL. And hey, guess who's back?
Back again.
Forward Joe Veleno coming back, reassigned to the Grand Rapids Griffins from Detroit on Sunday. And Grand Rapids are reloading on the forwards once again. You bring Veleno back, you bring Wachowski back. That's got to bode pretty well. I mean, Veleno is a legit scoring threat from the games I've watched previously with Grand Rapids. Yeah, definitely a top 6 forward that you get back, and you dial that offensive threat back up a little bit more. Grand Rapids now. Oh, go ahead.
I'm making exasperated faces here, not because Joe Veleno is bad for going back to Grand Rapids. It's very good for Grand Rapids. Mm-hmm. But what does that kid have to do to stick in the Iser plan? Like, Jesus. I mean, I feel like every time he goes up there, I'm like, well, that's it. That's the last time you'll see Joe Veleno in Grand Rapids. And if here we are again, just a little bit later, and he's back. Like, what kind of man needs to buy a yo-yo company at this point? Jesus,
just a 1.5 clip, in the AHL, 1.5 per game. I mean, that'll do the trick, right? I mean,
but like, I don't know. I'm struggling to believe that he can't crack, a bottom line role in Detroit right now. Given that, I understand Detroit's having some success with its youths in Raymond and Sider. I think Sider's one of the top defensive point scorers in the NHL right now, which, I mean, it's not that shocking. That kid can ball. Like, all the people who were dunking on Detroit for taking him so early, man, were they that's one of the many winnings of Yzerman scouting so far, and his scouting staff is Moritz Sider. But I struggle to believe that there are 13 forwards on Detroit that are better than Joe Veleno. 6, 7, 8, sure. 13, no. One of those bottom 4 guys is not better than Joe Veleno, but here we are. He's back in Grand Rapids. I don't get it, but
like you said, good for the Griffins. A bit of a head scratcher if you want him to stick in Detroit, but hey, Grand Rapids now 4-4-0-1, 4th place in the Central, behind 3rd place Manitoba, who is 5-4-1-0. My observations from both of these teams is that you have a pair of defenses that really enjoy and model their lives after the DC villain Two-Face, because yeah, their defenses are very hot and cold. We'll see which team brings some consistency to the blue line in this coming weekend. And honestly, I would say, I know we're not picking yet, but man, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a split this weekend, because I mean, yeah, flip a coin 50-50. We'll see what the model has to say, but don't be surprised if it's really close to 50%.
Model not updated yet, so we will find out.
I know. Trying to do a little bit of foreshadowing here,
there we go.
Get the people prepped for the weekend preview episode.
Well, we're going to take a break here. After the break, we will get to Abbotsford and Stockton. If you're just here for the Grand Rapids Griffins, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We have a lot of fun out there, and I think if you like us as a show, you'll probably like us on social media, tweeting jokes and memes and things of that nature. You can find links to all of that, all of our podcast catchers, at least the popular ones. We're on every podcast place you could possibly dream of. But all of that can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills, run some ads. We will be right back to talk Best Coast.
3 weekend recaps down, 1 left. The left coast is the best coast, as we say here on the Calder Farmstead. We're talking about the Pacific Division. We're talking about the Abbotsford Canucks and the Stockton Heat facing off this weekend. Both games in Stockton, California. Hard to do a split when your team is so far away up there in the north in Canada, eh? Friday at Stockton, 7 p.m. Pacific. Saturday in Stockton, 6 p.m. Pacific. Sean, it's time for that box score recap, that box score description. Lay it on us.
Byron Fraze makes his own entry and gets the Stockton Heat on the board. Makes his own entry as the rest of his line goes for change. 1-on-4. Fraze stalls long enough for reinforcements to arrive. He finds Walensky at the point and charges to the net. Walensky fires it on the net from a distance. Mikey DiPietro doesn't control the rebound, and Fraze recovers, walks it around DiPietro, and backhands it in for his 100th AHL career point on cue. 1-0 Heat with 8:16 left in the first period. After a phantom penalty call, Eetu Tuilola catches a clearing attempt right out of the box, goes on an improvised 2-on-1, protects the puck beautifully from Cameron Schilling, makes a nasty spin move at the bottom of the circle, finds Glenn Gaudin across Royal Road for a tap-in, 2-0 Stockton, 14:23 left in the second. On the power play, Danila Klimovic circles behind the net and passes to Carson Vogt at the point. Vogt goes across Royal Road to Cameron Schilling, who one-times a rocket low blocker side that beats Teen Wolf 2-1, 6:48 left in the second. Late in the third, Nick DeSimone hits Matthew Phillips with a stretch pass. Phillips gains the zone, gets to the top of the circle, and gives a streaking Adam Ruzicka a filthy sauce in the slot. Ruzicka redirects it home. 3-1 Stockton with 5:44 left in the game. Abbotsford answers off of a putrid turnover by Connor Mackey. Mackey makes it worse by losing an edge in his attempt to recover it. John Stevens picks it up and has a breakaway from about 15 feet from the goal. Teen Wolf makes the initial save, but the rebound hits off Kevin Gravel, who was coming back to the net, and goes in. 3-2 with 1:21 left in the game. But that would be all the scoring. Stockton pulls one out. Saturday, Abbotsford gets sustained pressure in the offensive zone as Jack Rathbone gets a shot from the point on the net. Adam Varner isn't able to hold on to the rebound, and Sheldon Rempel recovers it below the goal line, circles back. He gets Luke Philp to bite in on a deceptive look to the point, circles into the slot instead, rips a wrister into Werner's glove, but he is unable to control the rebound, and Rempel bangs home his own rebound. 1-0 Canucks, 14:45 left in the first. The Heat get a good bounce in the defensive zone as John Stevens can't keep the puck in. This springs Kirkland through the neutral zone for an odd man rush with Gaudin and Tuilola. Kirkland hits Gaudin with the pass in the high slot. Gaudin sauces over a sprawling Jet Wu across Royal Road to Tuilola to the back door, and he bangs it home. Tie game with 12:29 left in the second. Abbotsford takes a stupid penalty by Karel Plaschik and sends a dangerous Heat power play back to work. Andy Walensky fires one from distance that gets blocked, but the Canucks are unable to get a stick on the rebound to clear it. Walensky pokes it back towards the slot where Jakob Peltier lifts Phil DiGiuseppe's stick and gets the puck to the left faceoff dot where Matthew Phillips is waiting. Phillips snipes it over Silov's glove to give the Heat a 2-1 lead with 11:49 left in the second. But thems would be all the goals.
Yeah, Stockton, well, sweeping the weekend. Let's see how our picks rounded out. And, Stockton's burning through the Pacific like a California wildfire is what I said. And, yes, they continue that flame themed dominance. Well, I say dominance, but, dominance in the W column. They continue winning. They won the weekend. I predicted it. And you said Stockton's too fast, but you thought Silov steals a game on Friday in a heroic voodoo effort. And DiPietro started on Friday, but Silov's start couldn't get the job done. It was close. But we'll get there, right? You're like, wait a second. All right. So those were the picks. The model had Stockton 57% in both games. So me and the model agreed. You're like, well, maybe Silov's does.
I thought Silov's, and I mean, to Silov's credit, he tried his damnness to make, that game a thief effort, but the Abbey Canucks just could not get it together. But yeah, let's talk big picture takeaways here. Friday, the Canucks keep the Heat's speed in check for an entire first period. And then the difference between team speed just bled through. I don't think I've ever seen a 5-on-3 where the shorthanded team has better scoring chances than the power play team. And yet here we are, because that happened. Biggest difference in Friday's game for me was that 5-on-5, the game was roughly even, except that Stockton is creating rush chances and scoring chances off of Abbotsford's turnovers. When Stockton makes a bad turnover, Abby's not doing much with it. And some of that, and this is a theme we will come back to for Abbotsford this weekend, is, man, was that roster depleted. At one point I noticed they were using 2 defensemen on both power play units. And I'm like, come on, you can't tell me there are, 8 forwards that are power play worthy. And they're like, ooh, they're
not.
not really. At one point they again had Devontae Stevens playing forward. That's how thin it was.
Oof.
But I honestly thought Abbotsford, outside of 50 seconds in the second period, was the better team on Saturday. They had chances to take the lead. They had 3 power play attempts after Stockton took the lead to get an equalizer. But their power play just lacked any sort of threatening play on Saturday. Stockton just had the more talented and healthier team at the time, and goaltending couldn't voodoo its way out of that hole. Although I will be completely honest, all 4 goalies I felt like played pretty well this weekend. DiPietro and Archer Silovs really, really gave everything they could. The goals that that Stockton scored, hard to really pin on any of them. Saturday, I thought Abbotsford definitely contained the Heat better for long stretches. Like I said, I thought they were the better team. Saturday's game was definitely a low event snoozer, though, in terms of excitement, but Abbotsford did a better job of getting forechecking pressure, getting rebounds to extend possessions in the offensive zone. I thought they created some good chances on offense, but man, their special teams are just missing their top guys, because that is the difference between like high executing and threatening power plays and not, is when you can stack all of your best players for 2 minutes, right on top of each other. And their power play on Saturday just looked unthreatening. Like, it did not look scary. They weren't moving the puck well. They weren't breaking down. Stockton's penalty kill. They weren't challenging the penalty killers in a way that would really create good scoring chances. And besides the one-timer off a, high, like at the point slap shot that they put in, that was really and that's not a great scoring chance, by the way. Like, yes, Cameron Schilling can, hit lasers off of those kind of passes, but that was probably one of their better chances. And yeah, it went in, but their power play just did not get it done. And I think a lot of that was just the bodies they had available to put out there. I also want to say both penalty kills, but for both teams in both games, were also just leaving the net front power play guy sit on an island. Like, they just let him sit there. And I mean, not pressuring him, not battling him for position, literally giving this dude 3 feet of personal space for the most time, when the attacking team was in zone. Again, both teams did this repeatedly, and I have never seen that before. We pointed out in our preview show, and I did on Twitter as when updating graphs, that the entire Pacific Division sucks at killing penalties. And to see two teams just leave a dude at the net front unchallenged with 3 feet of space between him and the nearest defender, I think that might be a theme as to why these teams are having trouble killing penalties, because that cannot be a good move. And they did it repeatedly, both Stockton and Abbotsford. Wild. But again, positives to take from Abbotsford from Saturday. Like I said, I thought they were the better team. I thought they played a gritty, tough-nosed game. They forechecked well. They were able to kind of contain Stockton from the majority of the game. They just couldn't put any chances in. Mama said there would be days like this. For Stockton's side, again, big picture, good teams win games that they're not supposed to. And that's what Stockton did. The few chances that they were able to kind of squeeze through in both games. Like, this was not a high event, fun, exciting series. It was an ugly back and forth that Stockton mostly tipped the scales on Friday, but got the scales tipped on them on Saturday. But they managed to pull 2 W's out because they were on they executed more when it counted, and their power play is dangerous, and Abbotsford by and large wasn't.
Special teams snafu is the phrase that comes to mind with all of that and what you just said. Let me drop this on you. You said the penalty kill in the Pacific Division is rough. Stockton is the only team out of 9 in the Pacific Division that is above the halfway threshold in regards to league averages on penalty kill percentages. Stockton 9th in the league, 84.8% kill rate. Next, you have Abbotsford at 16th, 81% even kill rate. Henderson right below him at 17th, 80.4%. And then you've got Bakersfield, 19th, 80% even. Ontario, 22nd, 76.3%. And then you've got the last 4 of 5 are Pacific Division teams. Tucson, 27, 73.5. Colorado, 28, 73.5. Then you have the Wolves at 29 at 73.3. And then San Diego and San Jose rounding out the last 2, 70.8 and 69.2. Man, talk about the Wild West. You don't need to kill penalties out here. That's the Eastern. That's an East Coast, East Conference deal.
I will say Abbotsford definitely getting a boost there Stockton definitely getting a boost on the penalty kill there for going, I believe, 9 of 10 on the penalty kill this weekend against a bad Abbotsford showing on the power play. So I would not call their penalty kill good. Like, they're definitely not the 9th best. Excuse me. The 9th best penalty kill in the league, but it's, you said like 83%. That should not be 9th in the league. There are some of those will get corrected with time, but
absolutely,
this is not the penalty kill unit you were looking for.
Well, enough about that special teams just debauchery going on in Stockton, California this weekend. Let's break it down a little more and talk about some of the individual statistics and individual players, rather, that you noticed and stood out to you in this series.
I mean, it begins and ends in Stockton with Byron Fraze, leading by example all weekend, kind of like what we talked about with Grand Rapids with Taro Hirose, or over in Providence. Like, this was someone who was leading by example, created offense, showed poise, showed patience, hustled his ass off back checking, made smart plays in the defensive zone. He did take some stupid penalties on Saturday, but outside of that was an absolute tour de force in all 3 zones. He drew a penalty on Saturday too, ate a cross check right to the ribs. Very, very much one of the reasons where you see why he wore the C. Outside of 2 bad penalties on Saturday, he was absolutely their best player in all 3 zones, and he had competition for that. Emilio Patterson had a similar level of effort too, and probably prevented a goal on Saturday with a huge effort back checking. He put his head down and skated from the blue line in to break up a scoring chance for Abbotsford. Itu Tuilola, also fantastic all weekend. His ability to finish on scoring chances this weekend was really what made the difference for the Heat. That puck protection and spin move over Cameron Schilling, like, that was especially for, he is not a big dude. And to have Cameron Schilling basically draped on your back like a coat and be able to protect the puck, pull up, spin move, sauce it across Royal Road to your teammate for a tap in. That is some beautiful work there. You're going to get a nod here from us for that kind of thing. I thought all 4 goaltenders played really well. Even though these were not, the most fast-paced, high-danger kind of shot attempts, both goalies looked dialed in and put on a performance. I think Dustin Teen Wolf still has some extra movement in his game, but it's something small to be fixed. There's also probably a little bit of just the usual reasons for that, but I wouldn't, take too much of that from a one-off game. But there were definitely some moments where he looked a little rattled by the chaos kind of going on in front of him and was scrambling a bit in places that he maybe shouldn't have. But again, that's why he's Teen Wolf and not Adult Wolf, because, he's still a Ute and he's still working up the process. A lot of what we said about Phil DiGiuseppe in the preview very much held true throughout the weekend. He'd have a couple of shifts where it's like, oh, that's a dude that played several seasons in the NHL and has that polish and those puck skills and that ability to move and create offense, followed by milk carton status for like the rest of the period. Like I felt like he put on 4 good shifts a game where I'm like, oh, that's Phil DiGiuseppe. I didn't need the announcer to tell me that. I knew as soon as he touched the puck by the way he moves. And then the rest of the game, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He's in this game because his like 1 good shift per period happened already. And I had to wait another 20 minutes of game time for him to come around again. Like that's not a good look for him going forward. But still, like the talent for him is there. It's more of just consistency, which is not something I thought I would have to be saying about a dude who has his resume. Like, especially that team needs him right now. Although it looks like they might be getting Nick Patan back, which is a huge boost for them. I also thought Will Lockwood looked good in a limited role in his first game back from injury. Those, early games back from an injury can always be kind of harrowing because I know a lot of guys, when they get hurt with something, they're kind of hesitant to like put weight on it, put pressure on it, really give it a full go. But he very much looked like he did. He looked like he was ready to jump back in. Any offense he can provide that team at this moment is absolutely needed. So Godspeed to him trying to create some offense going forward, especially if he's going to play 3rd line minutes, dragging around some boat anchors. Godspeed to him.
Always fun when you're trying to reacclimate somebody to the playing game and they play a little bit lower than probably what they're used to. So like you said, Godspeed to that. All right. Last but not least, let's look forward. Let's talk the future for both Stockton and Abbotsford. Stockton, 2nd place in the Pacific Division. Yet to lose in regulation, 7-0-1-0, .938 points percentage. And Abbotsford, 6th out of 9 teams in the Pacific, 3-4-2-0, .444 points percentage. So a little bit lower than Stockton up there in BC. But Sean, what does the future hold for these 2 teams?
So until reinforcements or health arrive for the Abby-Nucks, it's hard to see improvement for them. Like I said, I think they might be getting Nick Patan back, which would be great. I don't understand why Vancouver is holding on to, oh my God, his name just left my brain. Justin. Oh, I can't think of it.
Well, now I'll look that up.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it.
Because he played like 4 minutes in the last game for Vancouver. Like literally 4 minutes. I don't know why. Why would you even bother putting a guy on the ice for 4 minutes? It's not like he's a goon and he's, doing goon things for 4 minutes. But until they get healthier, guys, do you have the name?
Still looking.
Okay.
Dowling?
Justin Dowling. I was going to say, I was like, it was on the tip of my tongue, and I'm like, I wanted to say Dowling, but I wasn't positive. Brain fart there.
No worries. I got you.
He played like 4 minutes in Vancouver's last game. Like, what are you doing? Why? Why? Send him back. But until guys like that come back or they get healthy, they have a couple guys who look like they've been missing time for injury. They're going to struggle. They don't have an ECHL team nearby that they can just, pluck guys from. They do have the benefit of heading to San Jose and Bakersfield for a pair of Friday-Sunday tilts the upcoming 2 weeks. So neither San Jose nor Bakersfield have been particularly impressive and have their own set of problems. But I think if they can pull 5 out of 8 points from those games, they'll be able to stay afloat in the division. So at least they don't have the rockiest of roads for the next 2 weeks in terms of scheduling. But, so much can change between now and then. But at least from where I'm sitting right now, there is at least some reason to hope that they can make some progress going forward here. Stockton heads to Bakersfield on Wednesday and then host Henderson, who last I saw was still suffering from call-up and health problems. Danil Miramanov just got called up for Henderson, so they should still be a little short-handed there, but they still have Logan Thompson, who can voodoo a win out of thin air. Mm-hmm. Bakersfield also just had Ryan McLeod called up, so he probably will not be in the lineup for Bakersfield, at least on Wednesday. And Bakersfield has not found the goaltending they'd hoped for in Moonshine's absence. So good chance that Stockton is still riding high going into a showdown with Ontario, which I will spoil it right now. We are going to cover that Ontario-Stockton series preview and recap for that weekend in 3 weeks, because that's prime time right there.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Two of the best team in the Pacific, let alone the league.
Yeah,
that'll be a series to see.
If there was a Monday Night Football for the AHL, that would be your Monday Night Football game, Stockton and Ontario right now. But they looked like they should probably be on cruise control heading into that series, especially as Calgary seems to be doing well health-wise. So that shouldn't be a problem for them, but we all know those things can change at the drop of a hat. But that is all I got looking forward. We're going to take a break here. After the break, we will get to the best of the AHL for the weekend, the Cream of the Crop Awards, and the quiz. So if you're just here for Abbotsford and Stockton, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media and all of our podcatchers and YouTube can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills with some ads. We will be right back.
Do you feel it? Do you feel the madness? It's time once again for the cream of the crop, the best of the AHL of the weekend that was. Oh, yeah, it's the Macho Man CC Hockley coming at you again with Sean O'Brien, my tag team partner. He's my tag team champion. Oh, yeah. Sean, let's get started. Who was your first cream of the crop on the weekend?
John Gillies from the Providence Bruins. I mean, stopped 60 of 62 this weekend for a .968 save percentage, 2 wins and a shutout. How was he in the ECHL again? Absolutely stole the game for Providence against Hershey. John Gillies, my first cream of the crop. Cece, who is yours?
Well, I'm gonna go to Utica, and I'm wearing the Binghamton Devils hat in homage to Utica and their prospects. They're gonna do a rare twofer here since Utica swept the weekend in a 3-3. Oh yeah. Joe Gambardella hat trick on Saturday in Utica's 5-2 victory over the Toronto Marlies. And then another goal in the Comets' 4-2 win over the Laval Rocket on Sunday. You can count that for 4 points. Yeah. Tice Thompson, another 4-pointer on the weekend for Utica. Hat trick on Friday in Utica's 6-3 win over Syracuse. Then potted another one in a victory over Laval. Again, Utica, the only undefeated team in both regulation and overtime. You get some two-for action for that cream of the crop. Yeah.
For mine, I see your 2 picks in 3-3s, and I raise you a 3-3. Cole Schneider of the Milwaukee Admirals, an assist on Friday, a hat trick on Saturday, 2 more assists on Sunday, 6 points in a 3-3. You're going to make cream of the crop when you do things like that. Cole Schneider, that's my second cream of the crop. Cece, who you got for second?
Well, I would give it to a team here, but the Manitoba Moose actually giving Mikhail Burden some rest this weekend. Kind of surprising. So my second guy, Felipe Derozier, yeah, hasn't played an AHL game since March 8th of 2020. That's a bit of a long time, if you know what I'm saying. Played 2 games with ECHL Trois-Rivières. Oh, that's hard to say with a Macho Man. Oh, impression going on, I'll tell you. In between Arvid Holm starts, Rosie posts 22 saves on 23 shots, leads the Moose to a 4-1 victory over the Chicago Wolves, and unfortunately, that was their only victory of the weekend. But hey, Rosie coming from the ECHL back to the AHL after over a year and a half away, gets my second star. Second star, second cream, second layer of cream. Yeah.
Last from me is the Ferk one himself, Martin Ferk. 2 goals, 4 assists over the weekend, 4 primary points out of 6. Done. He's your AHL player of the week, and he is your cream of the crop for me from the weekend.
Well, my cream of the crop is going to be Stephen John Fogarty. We're going to do some Creedence Clearwater Revival here, baby. Yeah. Contributed a goal and an assist in Providence 6-2 shellacking of Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Friday. And then he gets in on all 3 of the Pete Bruins goals against Hershey on Saturday. He had those first 2 goals and he assisted on that empty netter in the shutout against Hershey. Like we covered earlier, Providence with the weekend sweep and Stephen John Fogarty. Oh, yeah. I see a bad moon rising. It's got Stephen Fogarty's name all over it. Yeah, there's a bad moon on the rise, and it's madness. Oh, yeah. Feel the madness of that full moon, that bad moon rising. Whoa. Back to it. That's my cream of the crop of the week. Stephen Fogarty. Oh, yeah.
All right. That means it is quiz time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Let us get to the quiz. Since the Firebirds were announced as an expansion franchise, it made me think of other AHL expansions. Expansion teams are pretty rare in the AHL these days, as most teams just fold, go inactive, or get moved. Henderson used to be San Antonio, which used to be Adirondack, which used to be Virginia. Abbotsford used to be Utica, which used to be Peoria, which used to be Worcester, which used to be Springfield, and back until 1932, when the original team was the Quebec Beavers. So I thought we'd take a look back at AHL expansion franchises and the longevity in their home markets. While I have every faith that Coachella Valley will endure for a long time, other expansion franchises in the AHL have a mixed history of success. So, Cece, I have here 5 AHL expansion franchises, and we're going to do over-under for the number of seasons they stayed in their market. All you got to do is I'm going to give you a line, and you have to say over or under. Did they play more or fewer seasons than the line in that market when they expanded? So let's start it off with one that I'm sure you've heard of at least. The Kentucky Thoroughblades expansion in 1996. Over under 6 seasons in Kentucky for the Thoroughblades.
I'm going to say under.
Under is correct. They lasted 5 full seasons. CC on the board. You need 3, obviously, out of 5 to take the dub here. They became the Cleveland Barons and are currently, CC, do you know this for a bonus point? Who currently are the Kentucky Thoroughblades?
That would be the San Jose Barracuda.
Boom! Look at you with the bonus knowledge, CC. All right, second question here. The New Haven Nighthawks, expansion franchise in 1972. Over under 12 seasons in New Haven.
The Nighthawks. I'm going to say under.
That is an over. No, they lasted 20 full seasons. They eventually became the New Haven Senators and are currently, CC, for bonus glory, who are the New Haven Nighthawks now?
Oh, geez. If it's the New Haven Senators, is it perhaps the Belleville Senators?
It is, in fact.
Hey, there you go.
You don't score any points for the quiz. You just get brownie points, which, seeing as these are all made up anyway, it seems fairly decent.
Yeah, all right. I'll take it.
1-1. All right, CC, the Capital District Islanders expansion in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Over under 2 seasons.
I'm going to say under.
Ooh, that is an over. They lasted 3 full seasons.
Yeah, this is garbage is what this is. You're playing on like the lines here, and I'm going to lose this quiz because you're just stacking the deck.
4 bonus points. They left the Capital District Islanders to become the Albany River Rats. They are still an active franchise. Do you know who they became?
Utica Comets?
Charlotte Checkers.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. CC, you are 1 for 3. You need both of these to pull in the W here. The Baltimore Clippers in 1962.
Oh, boy.
Over under 17 full seasons.
Over.
Oof. CC, I am sorry.
Come on.
They are under with 14 full seasons. They transferred to the Southern Hockey League in 1976, which folded in 1978.
Give me the last question just for the hell of it. You already won.
I did. The last question is the Norfolk Admirals, year 2000, over under 14 seasons.
Over.
Over is correct. Do you know who they became?
They became, it's either going to be, it was San Diego.
That is correct. They became San Diego. So, I mean, CC, that does make me the winner and gives me a little bit of screen time here to kind of talk to the people a little bit here. So I'm going to take that opportunity right now. I also get to lead our outro, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
So, for my winning rant here, I want to talk to the AHL fans out there, broadly speaking, whomever your fan base is. You guys need to calm down. I saw way too many fan bases who are either getting way too high or way too low on their team already. It's been like 10 games, guys. A lot of teams are still working things out. A lot of teams don't even have their, defensive strategies in place in the brains of all of their players. Relax. I'm specifically looking at you, Utica Comets fans, who are I understand your team is hot right now. You're feeling good, but let's bring it down from an 11 to a 7.5. Hershey Bears fans, what are you doing? You were the better team in Providence. You're creating scoring chances. The pucks will go in. Relax. There is no need to be, sharpening up your pitchforks for Scott Allen. Calm down. In the same case, if you are a Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins fan, I knew you were too high the whole time because your team is not very good. Same thing in other fan bases. Ontario, I understand. Black and Silver Bandits look sexy right now, but it's been a few games. You've gotten a couple of good breaks. Just before you start planning the Calder Cup parades, just bring it down a notch. Come back to the rest of us. It's okay, guys. There's a long season ahead of you. What has happened so far will not make or break anyone's season just yet.
Very good. Very good. I'm not even gonna chime in on that because you don't get to have that rant very often. So it's all yours, bud.
Outro start here. That is it for the show. Thank you for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and a number of other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Just click on the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website and enjoy.
Nicely done. Nicely done. And hey, if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, like the video, comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so will help others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. And also, if you're listening on YouTube, don't be afraid to subscribe as well to the Calder Farmstead channel. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found in our link tree, which is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_Dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION. So he can make music for you too. Sean, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. You can find my stats work at Tableau, all of the projections for teams, outcomes, all of the individual player graphs, all of that fun stuff, all those PDO things we talk about. You can find all of that on my Tableau page. That is bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. Those get updated every Tuesday at some point on Tuesday, usually midday, but sometimes I've got to tinker with it more. CC, where can people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEAWK. The majority of my tweets, of course, are going to be about hockey, but hey, I like music, I like movies, I like pro wrestling, I like a number of different things. So hopefully, if it keeps me interested, it's not going to be bullshit for you. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. I think I'm probably due for an article, AHL, Colorado Eagles, or otherwise. Shawnee, this is a little awkward for me to say, but I'm going to say it with gusto. Take us home.
For CC Hockley, I'm Sean O'Brien. Thank you for tuning in, and please dump and chase responsibly.